Have you ever thought about how a simple, playful gesture could end a life? In Tyler, Texas, an 18-year-old girl named Dejah Hood touched her friend's ear. Just a light, innocent touch. The kind of interaction that happens countless times between friends every day. But this touch would be her last. Within hours, she would be dead, murdered by someone she trusted, someone she considered a close friend. This isn't just another story about violence. It's about the moments we miss, the signs we overlook, and the devastating consequences that can follow. Dejah was a young woman full of dreams, known for her nurturing spirit and passion for hairstyling. She was the kind of person who would drop everything to help a friend in need. That's exactly what she did on that fateful Monday when she agreed to help her friend Jamaurea Britton pack his apartment, even bringing along the 1-year-old child she was babysitting. What happened next challenges everything we think we know about friendship, trust, and the capacity for violence in those closest to us. What drives someone to commit such a violent act over something so innocent? As we explore this devastating case, we'll examine how a simple request for help moving apartments turned into a nightmare that changed multiple lives forever. The questions we need to ask ourselves are uncomfortable but necessary. How well do we really know the people we call friends? What hidden struggles might they be carrying? And most importantly, could this tragedy have been prevented? This story forces us to confront the reality that sometimes the most dangerous threats aren't strangers in dark alleys, but the people sitting across from us at lunch, helping us move, or sharing our daily lives. The truth about what happened to Dejah Hood that day will make you question everything you think you know about friendship and trust. Before we continue with this heartbreaking story, I need to pause for a moment. What you're about to hear might be difficult to process, but it's crucial information that could save lives. If you're watching this video, you probably know someone like Dejah. Someone who's always ready to help others. Someone who sees the best in people. Maybe that person is you. This is why I'm asking you to not just watch, but engage with this story. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced a situation where a friend's behavior made you uncomfortable? What did you do about it? Your experiences and insights might help someone else recognize similar patterns in their own life. Subscribe to our channel if you believe in the power of awareness and education. By building this community together, we create a space where these important conversations can happen. Hit that notification bell to join us in our mission to understand and prevent these tragic situations. Your engagement could make the difference in someone's life. Tyler, Texas, nestled in the heart of East Texas, is known for its warm hospitality and tight-knit community bonds. It's the kind of place where neighbors wave from their porches, where local businesses know their customers by name, and where young people like Dejah grow up surrounded by familiar faces and life connections. But even in communities as close as Tyler, where trust forms the foundation of daily life, darkness can hide in plain sight. This city of roughly 100,000 people, famous for its rose gardens and friendly atmosphere, would become the backdrop for a crime that challenged its residents' fundamental understanding of friendship and trust. The events that unfolded at the Holly Tree Apartments would force this community to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the greatest dangers lie not in the shadows, but in the bright light of day, wearing the face of a friend. At just 18 years old, Dejah Hood embodied the kind of spirit that made everyone around her feel special. She wasn't just another teenager in Tyler. She was someone who lived life with purpose and authenticity. Her dreams stretched beyond the boundaries of her hometown, with aspirations of building a creative career and eventually moving to Houston to expand her horizons. Those who knew Dejah describe her as genuinely positive, the type of person who could light up a room with her presence. She approached life with enthusiasm and determination, always exploring new creative outlets and ways to express herself. Despite her youth, she carried herself with a maturity that impressed everyone she encountered, balancing her playful nature with a sense of responsibility that set her apart from others her age. Dejah's bond with her family and friends went beyond typical relationships. Her mother, Lakita Jordan, had raised a daughter who understood the value of deep connections. But it was perhaps her friendship with Sarah Evans that best illustrated Dejah's capacity for meaningful relationships. As Sarah would later share, they weren't just best friends, they were sisters in every way that mattered. Their friendship was built on dreams and mutual support. They'd spend hours talking about moving to Houston together, planning their futures, and supporting each other's ambitions. When Sarah considered joining the Navy, Dejah's reaction revealed the depth of their connection. She couldn't imagine life without her best friend to talk to share experiences with. Dejah's circle of friends knew her as someone who would always be there when needed. She was the friend who would drop everything to help someone move, the one who would listen without judgment and offer support without hesitation. This natural inclination to help others, while admirable, would ultimately place her in a vulnerable position. Dejah's passion for hairstyling wasn't just a casual interest, it was her pathway to independence. She had developed a particular talent for wig installations and coloring, constantly experimenting with new techniques and styles. Her creative energy found its perfect outlet in this craft, where she could transform both hair and confidence with equal skill. What made Dejah's approach to hairstyling unique was how she combined her technical skills with her natural ability to connect with people. She wasn't just doing hair, she was building relationships, making people feel beautiful, and creating a space where they felt comfortable and cared for. Her friend Sarah witnessed firsthand how seriously Dejah took her career aspirations. They would spend hours discussing different styling techniques, watching tutorials together, and planning how they could turn this passion into a successful business. Dejah saw hairstyling as more than just a job. It was her chance to make a lasting impact on people's lives while building her own future. Sarah Evans, who knew Dejah better than most, often emphasized her friend's natural, maternal instincts. "She's like a mom. She has a mom mentality, like 100%, Sarah would later share. Her voice filled with emotion as she recalled her friend's nurturing spirit. This maternal nature showed in everything Dejah did. Even at 18, she was trusted to care for young children, including the 1-year-old she was babysitting on that fateful day. She approached childcare with the same dedication she brought to all her responsibilities, making sure the children in her care felt safe and loved. But Dejah's nurturing spirit extended far beyond childcare. She was the friend who would check in when someone was having a bad day, who would offer advice without judgment, and who would celebrate others' successes as if they were her own. Her ability to care for others while pursuing her own dreams made her extraordinary. It was this same caring nature that led her to agree to help a friend move apartments, a decision that would tragically lead to her death. Monday started like any other day for Dejah Hood. She had agreed to babysit a 1-year-old child, a responsibility she took seriously. That same morning, she received a call from Jamaurea Britton, a 19-year-old friend who needed help packing his apartment at the Holly Tree complex for an upcoming move. The timeline of that day would later become crucial to understanding the tragedy that unfolded. Around mid-morning, Britton picked up both Dejah and the child she was watching from her apartment. Friends who spoke to Dejah that morning said she was in good spirits, treating this as just another day of helping out a friend while managing her babysitting duties. "We need to understand something here together." Dejah had taken on the responsibility of watching a 1-year-old child. When Britton called asking for help with packing, she didn't want to cancel her babysitting commitment. Instead, demonstrating her typical problem-solving nature, she decided to bring the child along. The decision to combine these responsibilities, helping a friend while caring for a child, seemed logical at the time. After all, Britton was someone she trusted, and packing an apartment wouldn't interfere with watching the baby. What no one could have anticipated was how this arrangement would later complicate an already dangerous situation. The presence of the child would later become a crucial element in understanding the timeline of events. After his initial violent attack on Dejah, Britton made the calculated decision to return the child to safety before coming back to his apartment. This single act of returning the child would have devastating consequences, as it gave Britton time to contemplate and ultimately escalate his violent actions. According to police records, Dejah's last confirmed location was at Britton's apartment in the Holly Tree complex. Britton had picked up both Dejah and the child she was babysitting from her apartment that morning, supposedly to help him pack for an upcoming move. The sequence of events at the apartment would later become clear through Britton's confession. While in the kitchen, Dejah had playfully tugged at his ear, an innocent gesture that would inexplicably trigger Britton's violent response. In his rage, he attacked her with multiple objects, including a wine bottle and a hammer, continuing until the hammer's handle broke. After the initial assault, Britton left the apartment to return the one-year-old child to safety. This brief departure created a window of time that would prove crucial in the investigation. When he returned to find Dejah still alive, he made the calculated decision to end her life with a kitchen knife. When Dejah failed to respond to calls and messages, her mother Lakita Jordan immediately knew something was wrong. This silence was completely out of character for Dejah, who always kept in touch with family and friends. By 12:40 a.m. on Tuesday, the growing anxiety led her family to contact Tyler police to report her missing. When Tyler police received the missing person report at 12:40 a.m. Tuesday, they immediately recognized the urgency of the situation. The contrast between Dejah's responsible nature and her sudden silence raised immediate red flags. Her mother, Lakita Jordan, provided crucial information about Dejah's last known activities, helping Britton pack his apartment. The investigation quickly focused on the Holly Tree Apartments complex. Officers began methodically piecing together Dejah's movements from Monday morning. They knew she had been babysitting a one-year-old child and that Britton had picked them both up. The safe return of the child to Dejah's mother's apartment without Dejah herself became a critical point in the timeline. The initial phase of the investigation moved swiftly from a missing person case to something more serious when officers arrived at Britton's apartment around 1 p.m. on Tuesday. Their training and instincts told them something wasn't right from the moment they approached his door. When officers arrived at Britton's apartment, two immediate red flags caught their attention. First, the word "loser" was spray-painted on his entryway wall. When questioned, Britton claimed his ex-girlfriend had done this days earlier, an explanation that would later take on darker significance. More concerning was the discovery of what appeared to be blood in the carpet fibers. Britton quickly offered an explanation, claiming it came from his dog's medical condition. But the officers' instincts told them something wasn't adding up. The combination of these suspicious elements, along with Britton's seemingly rehearsed explanations, prompted them to dig deeper. Their suspicions intensified when they noticed Britton's parked vehicle nearby. Inside, they found a muddy shoe and latex gloves, items that would prove crucial to the investigation. These gloves matched others found near the ravine, creating a direct link between Britton and the crime scene. Behind the Holly Tree Apartments complex, in a creek bed, officers made the devastating discovery. Dejah's body had been methodically concealed, wrapped in a bedsheet, bound with tape, and placed inside trash bags. The location of her body wasn't random. Footprints led directly from Britton's apartment to the creek bed where she was found. The scene revealed the calculated nature of the crime. Britton had attempted to hide evidence by covering her body with leaves, but the latex gloves found near the ravine matched those discovered in his car. These physical pieces of evidence created an undeniable connection between the crime scene and the perpetrator. The discovery hit the investigating officers hard. They had hoped to find Dejah alive, but instead were faced with the brutal reality of a young life cut short. The methodical way her body had been concealed spoke to the deliberate nature of the crime, contradicting any notion of a heat-of-the-moment incident. At this point in our story, I need to pause and address something important. Many of you watching might recognize similar situations in your own lives, helping friends move, doing favors, or spending time alone with people you trust. This is why I'm asking you to engage with this community right now. In the comments below, share your thoughts about trust and friendship. Have you ever had an experience where your instincts told you something wasn't right, but you ignored it because you trusted someone? Your stories and insights could help others recognize potential dangers in their own lives. If this story has impacted you, please hit that like button and share it with others. Not for views or popularity, but because these conversations about trust, safety, and awareness need to happen more often. Subscribe to join our community, where we discuss these crucial topics that affect all of us. Remember, sharing these stories isn't about spreading fear, it's about spreading awareness and understanding. When first questioned by investigators, Jamaurea Britton crafted a detailed story to distance himself from Dejah's disappearance. He claimed that after picking up Dejah and the child to help him pack, she had briefly left his apartment to speak with someone in a black Chevrolet pickup truck. According to his fabricated account, she then informed him she was leaving with the child. His attempts to explain away suspicious evidence showed careful calculation. When officers noticed the word loser spray painted on his wall, he blamed an ex-girlfriend, claiming it happened days earlier. The blood visible in his carpet fibers? He attributed it to his dog's medical condition. Each explanation seemed rehearsed, designed to create reasonable doubt and deflect suspicion. These initial lies would later contrast sharply with the brutal truth, revealing how Britton tried to construct a narrative that would protect him from consequences. During police interrogation, Britton's carefully constructed story began to crumble. He finally admitted to being in his kitchen, consumed by thoughts of his ex-girlfriend and their breakup, when Dejah's innocent gesture triggered his violent outburst. His confession revealed a disturbing sequence of events. After the initial attack, a neighbor's knock at his door interrupted him as he contemplated suicide with a gun in hand. Instead of seeking help or showing remorse, he maintained his composure, dismissing the neighbor's concerns. He then made the calculated decision to return the 1-year-old child to safety. The most frightening aspect of his confession was the revelation that when he returned to his apartment, he discovered Dejah was still alive. Rather than calling for help or showing any humanity, he made the conscious choice to end her life permanently. The brutality of the attack revealed through Britton's confession was horrific. In his rage, he first struck Dejah with a wine bottle, then began choking her. The violence escalated as he grabbed a hammer, continuing his assault until the handle broke from the force of his strikes. The physical evidence at the scene corroborated his confession. Officers found footprints leading from his apartment to the creek bed where he had disposed of Dejah's body. The latex gloves discovered near her body matched those found in his car, creating an undeniable link between Britton and the murder. The methodical nature of his actions after the crime showed a disturbing level of calculation. He wrapped Dejah's body in trash bags, secured them with tape, and covered everything with a bedsheet before disposing of her remains behind the apartment complex, attempting to conceal the evidence under leaves. The most disturbing aspect of this case lies in what triggered Britton's deadly rage. He was in his kitchen, dwelling on thoughts of his ex-girlfriend and their breakup, when Dejah playfully tugged at his ear. This innocent gesture, something friends do countless times without consequence, reminded him of his ex-girlfriend, and it was enough to unleash his violent fury. The triviality of this trigger reveals a deeper, more troubling reality about hidden rage and unresolved emotions. Britton had been harboring intense feelings about his breakup, letting them simmer beneath a seemingly normal exterior. No one, including Dejah, could have anticipated that such a playful moment would ignite such a violent response. The spray-painted word loser on his wall takes on new meaning in this context. Not the act of an angry ex-girlfriend, as he claimed, but possibly a reflection of his own turbulent emotional state. The human brain's response to rage differs significantly from normal anger. While anger is a natural emotion that most people can control, rage represents an extreme state where rational thinking becomes severely impaired. In Britton's case, his response wasn't just anger, it was an explosive combination of suppressed emotions and unprocessed trauma. What makes this case particularly disturbing is how a minor trigger, a playful ear touch, could catalyze such devastating violence. Neurologically, when someone experiences rage, the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, essentially hijacks the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking. This explains why seemingly insignificant triggers can lead to catastrophic responses in individuals harboring deep-seated emotional wounds. The progression from trigger to violence isn't instantaneous. There's often a crucial window where intervention is possible. In Britton's case, this window existed, evidenced by his ability to calmly interact with a neighbor and return the child to safety. This shows that even in states of extreme emotion, there are moments where different choices could be made. Understanding these windows of opportunity is crucial for both potential perpetrators and those around them. According to recent crime statistics, approximately 64% of female homicide victims know their attackers, with a significant portion being friends or acquaintances. This statistic becomes even more relevant when we consider that young adults aged 18 to 24, like Dejah, are particularly vulnerable to this type of violence. What's particularly concerning is the increasing trend of violence triggered by seemingly minor incidents. Law enforcement data shows that in cases involving acquaintance violence, the triggers are often surprisingly trivial. A misinterpreted comment, a perceived slight, or in Dejah's case, an innocent gesture. The most alarming statistic reveals that in over 70% of these cases, there were previous incidents of concerning behavior that went unreported or unaddressed. These weren't necessarily violent acts, but rather displays of extreme emotional reactions, inability to handle rejection, or obsessive behaviors related to past relationships. Based on the evidence from Dejah's case and similar incidents, there are several key warning signs that often precede acts of violence. These indicators aren't always obvious, which makes them particularly dangerous. Fixation on past relationships is a major red flag. In Britton's case, his preoccupation with his ex-girlfriend created a powder keg of emotions waiting to explode. When someone constantly brings up past relationships or shows an inability to move forward, it can indicate deeper emotional issues. Extreme reactions to minor situations serve as another crucial warning sign. If someone responds with disproportionate anger to small triggers, it might signal poor emotional regulation. This could manifest as punching walls, throwing objects, or displaying sudden mood swings. The presence of weapons, combined with emotional instability, should never be ignored. Britton had access to both a gun and knife, which he contemplated using during different stages of his crime. When someone experiencing emotional turmoil has easy access to weapons, the risk of violence increases significantly. Pay attention to someone who shows an inability to accept responsibility for their actions, often blaming others or circumstances for their behavior. This pattern was evident in Britton's initial attempts to create false narratives about the crime scene. Anger management specialists point out that explosive rage, like what Britton exhibited, often masks deeper emotional issues. The key difference between normal anger and dangerous rage lies in the ability to maintain rational thought during emotional moments. Professional counselors emphasize that healthy anger follows a predictable pattern: trigger, escalation, and de-escalation. But in cases like Britton's, this pattern short-circuits. The escalation phase becomes immediate and extreme, bypassing normal emotional controls. Experts identify several crucial intervention points where violent outcomes can be prevented: recognition of personal triggers, development of cooling-off strategies, building support networks for crisis moments, learning to separate past trauma from present situations. These skills aren't just helpful, they're essential for preventing tragedy. The ability to step back and process emotions before acting can mean the difference between life and death. The connection between past relationship trauma and present violence emerged as a critical factor in Dejah's case. Britton's fixation on his ex-girlfriend created a psychological powder keg that exploded when Dejah's innocent gesture reminded him of his past relationship. This pattern isn't uncommon. Law enforcement data shows that unresolved relationship trauma often serves as a catalyst for violence, even when directed at uninvolved parties. The victim, in many cases, becomes a substitute target for suppressed emotions and unprocessed pain. In Britton's case, his inability to process the end of his previous relationship manifested in extreme violence against someone who had nothing to do with his past trauma. The spray-painted loser on his wall, which he initially blamed on his ex-girlfriend, likely reflected his own emotional turmoil rather than external actions. The Tyler community's response to Dejah's murder reflected the deep impact her death had on both those who knew her and those who didn't. The Holly Tree Apartments complex, once just another residential area, became a somber reminder of how violence can shatter a community's sense of security. Local residents struggled to reconcile how such a brutal act could occur in their tight-knit community, especially between friends. The case sparked important conversations about trust and safety among young people in Tyler. Many parents began having difficult but necessary discussions with their children about friendship boundaries and personal safety. The community's grief manifested in various ways, from memorial gatherings to increased advocacy for youth safety programs. Local organizations stepped up their efforts to educate young people about recognizing potential dangers, even in seemingly safe relationships. Sarah Evans' testimony provides the most intimate portrait of the friend she lost. A best friend's worst nightmare, she said, her voice breaking as she described the pain of knowing how Dejah suffered. Their friendship wasn't just casual. They shared dreams of moving to Houston together, building their futures side by side. She had good intentions. She had only positive attentions on everybody, Sarah recalled, painting a picture of someone whose impact went far beyond ordinary friendship. Their bond was so strong that when Sarah considered joining the Navy, Dejah couldn't imagine life without her best friend to talk to. The depth of their connection was evident in how they supported each other's dreams. Sarah was Dejah's confidant for career advice, especially regarding her passion for hairstyling. She liked doing hair, like installing wigs and stuff, coloring wigs, and she liked trying different stuff, Sarah shared, her words capturing Dejah's creative spirit and determination. Dejah's tragic story teaches us several crucial lessons about trust and safety. Her case highlights how even the most innocent interactions can trigger violence in someone harboring hidden rage. The fact that she brought a child to Britton's apartment shows the level of trust she had, a trust that proved fatally misplaced. One key lesson is the importance of recognizing that helping others, while admirable, should never come at the cost of personal safety. Another is understanding that someone's public persona might mask dangerous underlying issues. Britton's reaction to a playful gesture revealed how past trauma can explode into present violence without warning. Most importantly, this case teaches us that no act of violence exists in isolation. There are always warning signs, even if they're subtle. Before we conclude Dejah's story, I need your help in ensuring her legacy creates positive change. This channel isn't just about sharing stories, it's about preventing future tragedies. If you've been moved by Dejah's story, there are 3 important actions you can take right now. First, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Not for numbers, but because each new video shares critical information that could save lives. Second, share this video with someone you care about. These conversations about trust and safety need to happen more frequently. Finally, and most importantly, leave a comment below sharing your own experiences with friendship boundaries. Have you ever had to navigate a situation where you felt unsafe but didn't want to seem rude? Your insights could help others recognize similar situations in their own lives. Together, we can honor Dejah's memory by creating a community that openly discusses these crucial topics. Let's turn this tragedy into a catalyst for change.